Hi, this is Konrad here, the cold emailer, copywriter, and Yerba, the Addict. And today I got one question for you. Is your copywriting or your writing in general lacking conviction, the cut through the noise, the X factor? Are you turning your calls to actions into calls into inaction? And are you writing not to offend anybody, or are you writing instead to drop their pants and rock their socks off? Or maybe, finally, are you tiptoeing around asking a girl to go out with you? Okay, the last one might be slightly off topic, but I believe it's very much connected to the other problems that you might have resonated with, or the questions that I just asked you. Because as a licensed copywriting doctor, my diagnosis for you is simple today. Simple yet powerful. You are lacking cojones, my friend. You are lacking balls. And if you are a girl, I don't know what you're lacking specifically, but I think it's a bit of a metaphorical term. So yeah, in today's video, I'm gonna try to go deeper into what I see, why I see that there's a problem of everyone trying to write copy in such a way that in the end it results with just bad responses, and it results in a copy that doesn't really work. And what has been my observation around that, and why basically this problem is making you a poor copywriter. Poor in a sense of both you're not good, and two, you don't make as much money as you should, and you don't make as much money for your client as you should be making. But before we get into that, as usual, the good old sip of yerba, because why not, right? So let's break down what I see is the overall problem. I think the overall problem is the times we live in. Everyone's all about cultural, political correctness. Everyone's like trying to not offend anybody. Everyone's using like dialed down language. People are still swearing, but you can't use some swear words. You can't use some risky language because maybe somebody is gonna take it the wrong way. And I think it's mostly coming from US, but I think here I am based in Europe, and I think in Europe we see big signs of that happening as well. And I think this is a big part of why a lot of people have problem with like leveling up as a copywriters, because they run into this problem of like writing something that technically speaking is good, but it just lacks this what I call an X factor. So it doesn't have like when you look at it at a first glance, it all makes sense, but in the end it's all written either in the wrong forms, like the tense. So everything is in like the weaker language. So you use like may instead of like present simple and direct language. You don't use words like die and things like that, which actually would be the reason your copy would work, because you want to trigger the emotional response. And this is why I believe, and I said it already in my other videos, is that actually having the salesmanship skill in you is more important than having the writer skill, is because the salesmen of all kinds and races and locations understand the human psychology and what it takes to convince somebody to buy something, and they also understand, and the best copywriters do too, that in the end maybe the times have changed, maybe the mediums have changed. Like we use now email, not direct mail, and not like paper, not newspaper, but instead it's everything's on web. But what all of them understand, what I also understand, and you probably don't understand, is that the humans have not changed. People think we changed, but deep down, we have not changed. And our lizard brain still responds to the same things. And that's why I also made the same comparison to tiptoeing around asking a girl to go out with you, because it's the same in this dynamic. There's the same problem. Like if you go like, can you maybe if you have a free time to give me your number, then maybe I will then invite you one day to go out with me. So and it's kind of like that. What I see, like people writing different copywriters writing their calls to actions, and the actual ask, they, instead of saying like, hey, if you do this, I will do that. Or this is like, if you like this is what you should do next. Or this is what I'm going to do next. Instead, they're like, if maybe you are interested, then please let me know. Like that's not a call to action. That's basically what I just said, like call to inaction, because you are putting the responsibility on that person. And actually the responsibility is on you, because the default state of every human is inaction, because it's easier, it saves energy. There is less perceived risk in staying in the default mode than in taking some kind of an action. So that's why it requires force and like energy. Like you gotta punch through the shields. And the only way you can do that is if you use, I call it, like, for example, John Calton has them like power words. I can give you a link in the description below. So basically like combination of words or single words that are like more forceful. And a lot of times they, would be so-called like, they could be very polarizing. Like maybe there are some people that could take them the wrong way. Maybe there are some people who could get offended. Maybe there are some people who would read this like, ugh, what is he writing? How can he use the word die or vagina? But like this is what it takes to basically sell sometimes. I'm not saying you always have to use these words. You don't always have to swear or say like fuck. Actually, swearing, I think as far as I'm concerned, it could be used in your copy, but it has to be used very sparingly and very intentionally. And unless you are, I think, a master at this craft, you're gonna have a hard time pulling it off. So I would stay away if I were you, and if you are not at that level. But the general rule is, and what it all comes down to, is that you have to learn to write in more direct terms, and you have to learn that you have to assume certain things, because that's just copywriting, right? Like you are making assumptions, especially, for example, cold email, which I specialize in. It's like you are cold reading a prospect. And the only way, like the problem is that you have only a small portion of the information. So if the whole is like 100%, you may be operating with 10%. But in order to reach that person and get them to respond, you have to assume more. And then in many cases, you might like miss the target, but you just have to hit it enough times. And the only way to do that is if you assume certain things. And the assumptions are basically based on probability. Like you create your ideal customer profile, and you figure out like what's the chances that they have this problem and this solution would be interesting, or like this is the angle that I could start a conversation with them, and how likely they're gonna respond to that, relate to that, how relatable is my story, all that jazz. Like in some cases you can really be super data driven, to use a amazing buzzword. But in many cases, you're operating with some, percentage of assumptions, and that's just a fact of copywriting that you cannot kind of forget about. And because you're making assumptions, you can make wrong assumptions. but you have to make them in order to succeed. So I don't want to make this too long. This was supposed to be just a short video. That was just something I don't know, just an idea for a video that today I had, because I saw this over and over and over again. And I think I had less of a problem with that in general, because I'm more of a direct, honest person. But if you are not, then you basically have to learn, even if it's just for the purposes of copywriting. If you don't want to change your life and become that way, I would highly recommend you to potentially get interested in being more direct in general and saying what's on your mind in general. But if you don't want to do so, just implement or take that mindset and put it into your copywriting craft, and then you will thank me later. So without any more fluff, thanks so much for watching this. Make sure to comment or subscribe. I would love to hear if this is something you're struggling with, and if these are some points that I kind of these points that I touched on in this video are something that resonated with you, and I should be making more of these videos, or I should just go home and never make a video again. Okay, I'm joking. I know I should be making more videos, and I will make them no matter what. So again, thanks a lot, guys, and I will see you in the next episode. So cheerios.